We will start, and the Marudam team is actually trying to get online. They were all online just 15 minutes before, and something happened to that computer. So they're trying to get on somehow, and we hope it works out for them. So in the meantime, we'll get started. Welcome all of you. It's lovely to see almost 75 participants today. And we're also live on Facebook, and so more people are hopefully watching. Welcome to today's Vārtā on learning to connecting back with nature, land, and people, with friends from Marudam Farm. Could everyone, may I request everyone to put yourselves on mute? Thank you. For those of you who are participating in our event for the first time, I'd like to start with a brief introduction to Vikalp Sangam. Vikalp Sangam, as it translates as Alternatives Confluence, is an India-wide network of initiatives that are creatively challenging the current rather destructive idea and paradigm of development, which is quite deep-rooted and widespread. And these, what we call systemic alternatives, are attempting to re-envision and redesign the different aspects of our society. Like you see here, like the way we grow our food and how we relate to it, how we make our clothes, how we share our resources and govern ourselves. How do we create new forms of economy, governance, health and education systems, which really embrace life, where life can thrive, and embrace diversity of cultures and are more aligned to nature, foster community, and so on. So these initiatives come together in gatherings we call confluences or sangams that we organize periodically in different parts of the country. There have been about 20 such sangams over the past 6 years since we started. Some are regional in nature, which are organized in specific regions or states across India, where organizations from that particular region working in diverse areas come together to share their stories, to learn from each other, and and build and deepen relationships, and also create collaborative projects. And some sangams are thematic in nature, which means they focus on specific themes like economy, health, governance, democracy, and so on. And these stories, which are more than 1,200 in number, are also featured in our website, vikalpsangam.org, where you can go and take a look. It's a growing archive of such positive stories, very relevant for our times today, to go and read about these and feel energized. And especially over the past few months, as more people are waking up to this inherently unsustainable and inequitable system that we're all part of, that we're all partaking in. And there has been a growing interest and curiosity in learning about alternatives. How do we organize ourselves differently in ways that we can create more resilient systems where life can thrive and it works for everyone? This webinar series, Vikalp Vārtā, was started as a response to that need, where these stories of alternatives can come alive with the people involved in these stories, can share them and interact with the audience and participants, answering questions. And we especially choose stories that particularly show us the way forward, addressing issues that the COVID crisis is bringing to the surface. Like the story today, we hope will address important questions around education. What kind of education has created such dysfunctional and weak social and economic systems in the first place? And on the other side, what kind of education can heal these wounds and help us create more thriving, joyful, and resilient systems. So in the past, we have had stories on panchayat systems as an alternative to more centralized forms of governance, and so on. So with that, we would love to, while we're still waiting for the team to join, we'd like to start with a short 6.5-minute film about the Marudam Farm School. And hopefully by then they are here.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, they are here. Okay, hi, welcome.
Okay, I can see us.
Yes, we can see you now.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, then, yeah, this is a team. You just can give it to Arunachala. Okay, you can start playing the movie.
Yeah. So we will start with a short film and then we will resume our conversation. Okay, over to you, Vinay.
Yeah.
Hi, Vikalp Vārtā. Sorry, this is Lima. Many of them are not able to connect. Can you please help?
It could be because of the limit, 100 limit. So I posted the Facebook live link on the chat. Can you please share that with the participants who is wanting to connect?
I just copy paste the link.
Yes.
Can I?
Well, we're still at 91, so they should be able to.
Yeah, there are about 10 of them.
You tell them to keep trying, otherwise to go onto Facebook. Yes.
They say every time they try to put in the ID, Zoom ID number, it shows some phone number shows up. Lata, I'm going to share this Facebook live. I'll just share that with you. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start the movie.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
That's the direct Zoom link if somebody wants to try that. Lima, you can give them that also.
Okay, so I'm starting the movie now.
ಕಲ್ಲನಾಗರ ಕಂಡರೆ ಹಾಲನಯಂಬರು ದುಃಖಗನಾದರ ಕಂಡರೆ ಕೊಲ್ಲೆಂಬರಯ್ಯ ಕಲ್ಲನಾಗರ ಕಂಡರೆ ಕುಂಭ ಜಂಗಮ ಬಂದರೆ ನಡೆ ನಾಡೆ ಎಂಬರು ಜಂಗಮ ಬಂದರೆ.
When I say Marudam, the word itself means an ecosystem. The whole point where Marudam started was we want to really explore the joy of learning, and we wanted to do it like a community school where primarily there is a farming community which has lived here for generations.
A place like this is not just for children, also for adults, a lot of young adults. So most of our teachers are made up of people who have chosen to try something different. Again, to live sustainably, to do farming, to grow their own food, to be a part of a reforestation effort. So all this is merged into one project.
So in itself, we have a very varied group of people. And so we also wanted to, like, two reasons. One is to explore this joy of learning by doing things with their hands, real life experiences, giving them life skill education, and also representing the community. So we wanted an integrated space.
together a group of people that wanted to start a school. The school has started, then the farm has started, then the community has started, and all build one on top of each other. And it's very enmeshed. There's no like clear boundaries. This is that, this is that. It's all something that is growing together very organically. And sometimes it may be too entangled, all the different things. But usually it feels very alive and very natural, the way that everything has grown.
All we knew is we're coming to Tiruvannamalai, we're going to be part of this afforestation program, and let's hit it running, let's see what happens. Only thing we thought about is like, what kind of a school? Okay, we're going to start a school, but what kind of a school? For who? And what do we teach? Like we felt if you're going to be in a rural area, children from around should be able to come. It should be a school for them. It can be also for others, but it should be a school for them.
டவுன்ல இருக்கிற நிறைய பசங்களுக்கு விவசாயம்னா என்ன, அது எப்படி கிடைக்குதுன்றதே தெரியாம இருக்காங்க. உதாரணத்துக்கு சொல்ல போனீங்கன்னா, எங்க கிராமத்துல ஒரு ரெட்டியார் ஒருத்தர் இருந்தாரு, ரொம்ப பெரிய பணக்காரரு, நிறைய நெல்லுலாம் அறுவடை பண்ணுவாரு. அவரு இப்ப நிலம்லாம் வித்து இது பண்ணிட்டாரு. அவரோட பேரன் வந்து இப்போ ஒரு 3-4 வருஷம் முன்னாடி கிராமத்துக்கு வந்தான். அவன் கேட்கறான், கிராமத்துல நெல்லு காய்க்கிற மரம் இருக்காமே அப்படின்னு கேட்கறான். இப்ப நமக்கு நம்ம பசங்க கண்டிப்பா அது தெரியுது. ஒரு தக்காளினா எங்க இருந்து வருது, அது விதை எப்படி இருக்கும், காய் எப்படி இருக்கும், எப்படி பூக்கும், எப்படி செடியா இருக்கும், அதே மாதிரி நெல் எப்படி பண்றாங்க, விதை விடுறதுல இருந்து எல்லாத்துலயுமே நம்மளோட ஜாயின் பண்ணிக்கிறாங்க. அவங்களுக்கு எல்லாமே ஒரு புரிதல் இருக்கு.
I like it very much because it's like you are very connected to the nature, and you can also see birds and you learn about insects and animals.
சில பேர் பட்டர்ஃப்ளை சம்மந்தமாக ரொம்ப ஆர்வமான ஆட்கள் இருப்பாங்க, சில பேர் செடி சம்மந்தமாக தெரிஞ்சவங்க இருப்பாங்க, சில பேர் மாத்து ஸ்பெஷலிஸ்ட் இருப்பாங்க. அந்த மாதிரி சில பேர் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ட்ராகன் ஃப்ளையை தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும். அங்கே அது ஒரு பூவில் வந்து தேன் குடிக்கும். ஆனால் எனக்கு அந்த பூ பேர் தெரியாது, மரத்து பேர் தெரியாது. ஏன்னா தெரிஞ்சுக்கணுன்ற அவசியமும் இருக்குது. ஏன்னா ஒரு பறவை ஒரு இடத்துக்கு வருதுன்னா அது அந்த பூ பூத்துருக்கு, அதனால் வருது. அப்போ எனக்கு அந்த பூ பேரும் தெரியணும். அப்போ பூ பேர் தெரிஞ்சால் தான் அது எந்த மாதம் பூக்குன்னு தெரியும். அப்போ வந்து இந்த மாதிரியான அறிவுள்ள ஆட்கள் கூட போகும்போது என்னென்னா, நமக்கு அவங்களும் வந்து அவங்க விஷயத்த நமக்கு சொல்கிறாங்க, நம்ம விஷயத்த அவங்களுக்கு சொல்கிறோம்.
Nature provides more excitement than anything else actually. But the thing is to reconnect. So one of the things we do is spend time in nature. We don't have an agenda. We just go spend time through different seasons in different parts of the hill.
காட்டில் நம்ம இயற்கை சுகாதாரத்தை நம்ம வளர்க்கணும். என்ன நம்மள அவங்க செய்யணும், நம்ம ஒரு பங்கு எடுத்து செய்யணும். இயற்கை நல்லா இருக்கணும், நமக்கும் நல்லா இருக்கும். அதே மாதிரி மரம் வெட்டினா வெளியிலேருந்து பறவைகள்லாம் வந்து இங்கே வந்து உட்காந்து அண்டோம், எல்லாருக்கும் நமக்கு நல்லா இருக்கும்.
In terms of the afforestation also, I feel, the forest is coming back. It's visual. You can see the forest is coming back. People are coming to Tiruvannamalai. So Tiruvannamalai was known as this dry, brown place. But now, with the green cover, people coming expect to see a brown hill, they're seeing a green hill. They see streams actually flowing. It's like, unbelievable, inconceivable that a stream can flow from this hill.
Yeah, that lively film really captures the essence of the spirit of Marudam. The place is full of life all the time. And one of the very important aspects of Marudam, which film doesn't talk about, is their engagement with traditional crafts. farmers and traditional artisans. I think it's one of the most special aspects of Marudam life, I would say. And they have something called a craft week. We will share a link with you to a film about their craft week, where the entire school closes down and people, kids and adults from different parts of the country move into the school and live there for a whole week along with traditional craftspeople. So it's a really fabulous experience. Before handing over the space to inviting the team and handing over the space to the team, I'd like to share a few opening thoughts, especially as a friend of Marudam, and also for a very brief period as a parent of in Marudam. My child used to go there briefly, and why I feel also this is a very important story for us, especially in today's context. I'd like to focus on 5 specific areas in today's conversation. Of course, the team can build on it, that is relevant for our times today, and that Marudam, I feel, has been able to contribute in significant ways. One is on localization. There's just so much talk about how we need to learn to turn towards localization, move away from globalized culture. And localization of economy doesn't happen on its own. It's connected to localization of understanding the local culture, history, resources, nature. So, and or they're all interconnected. So localization is one. And a second very important aspect is a certain non-hierarchy of knowledge, as is very often quoted. A child who is very good at tree climbing is acknowledged and celebrated equally as another child who is very good in maths, solving math problems. And I think this has a very important lesson for us to learn. And the third one is about how adults and children in this space are co-learners. They challenge each other, they inspire each other, they teach each other, they learn from each other, and that's a very important aspect of Marudam also. And along with that, even though so many different streams of learning are pursued in Marudam, it's amazing to see that there is still a focus on excellence. Whether it's the adults or children, when they really find their passion in something, they pursue excellence. So would love to know more about that as well. And fourth one is on integration, especially in the background of whatever is happening across the world. Marudam is a beautiful example of how children and adults coming from such diverse backgrounds, classes and nationalities live, learn and work together so beautifully. There's a lesson to be learned there, and also integration of life with art and work and learning and play and adventure, and so like how they beautifully flow one into the other. So that's another one. And finally, learning as an immersive process. One of the things I feel that this crisis has shown us is how fragmented our perception is. It's so fragmented that it's so hard for us to see, and also for us to talk to someone about how this is connected to that, to just see some very obvious connections between different aspects of our life. And this, I feel, has very little to do with the content. It's not like you add 10 more lessons on the 10, more ignored aspects of life, and then you form an integrated whole. But I think it's got more to do with the process of learning itself. And holistic real learning happens in an osmotic process where you're immersed in a whole context. And there's a beautiful saying that says you learn the world, we learn the world, not the word. So learning craft doesn't happen by reading about it or even doing some 1 hour of craft a day, but to really immerse in that whole experience, and how learning happens osmotically, and learning of values as well, not just skills, but learning values, learning so many things. So I would like to introduce the team right now and invite them to take over for a brief introduction. And we would also like to request the participants today to keep our conversation, larger conversation, broadly around, the philosophy of education, the approach. It could go into some specific practices, but to avoid getting into very detailed discussions on so that we can go deeper into the philosophy of education and their approach. With that, I would like to hand over the screen to the Marudam team. We have with us Arun, Pachayapan, Akhila, Harish, Nishant, Karthik, and Purnima. Are you able to hear us?
They just muted me. Yeah.
Okay. Over to you, Arun.
Hey, Sangeeta. Okay. So I'm in a bit of a messy frame of mind. All this hitch pitch which has been going on in the last half an hour. So I'll try and calm enough to share. A lot of nice things you say. Okay, so I'll and share something about the school, but for some reason, so I will just share a few words about Marudam. Oh, will that come? You want to try? Purnima, just keep quiet, Purnima, please. So, yeah, I was wanting to say some things. One is that it's not like Marudam is a very old school which has worked for a long time and has time-tested things to show students who are passed out and all that. We are just 11 years old. So in many ways, we are still, what shall we say, very early in the education scene. Only thing one can say with some assurance is that we have certain ideas about education which we have gone on to consistently try. We have certain processes in place. So I would like to mention some of them. For instance, we firmly believe that children should learn as much as possible directly, not so much from the written word as much as lived experience. So it creates it to happen. That they go in the whole world. Thanks to the fact that we are in a rural area, we have farmlands around, we have afforestation program. Incidentally, we run that also. We have a forest. So we have many possibilities, many areas of learning. And so then a lot of time, of 12, I would say not more than 2 periods are spent, and spent with the learning about playing, with the farm, with nature, so many things like that.
Hello. Yeah, Arun, hi. I think the voice is breaking. We've not been able to make out for last 2. Yeah.
I can't hear them. If they're saying something, I can't hear.
No.
Hello?
So do you want to just do a voice without video if your bandwidth is low?
So I suppose the computer with the video has good bandwidth because the video we can see very clearly.
Yeah, this screen is great. So do you want to unmute yourselves?
Okay, we just quick ask permission and they'll unmute.
Yeah, so now we can see you and hear you.
Hello?
Now we can see you and hear you.
Are you talking to me, Brian Jenkins?
No, Brian.
I think the Bluetooth thing may not work now. Yeah. Yes.
This takeoff is very Nisham also is knocking the slide shows the problem. Takeoff.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Very well.
We can see you and hear you. So why don't you start?
Huh?
Yeah, I don't mind to start. They can hear you.
I can't hear anything.
If I speak, then I'll interfere the meeting.
Can they see you?
I don't know.
Or hear you?
They said no.
Yes,
Okay,
we can see you.
Sangeeta, I think I've lost it. I think we'll just go for questions and we'll come back as and when we'll
Arun, are you
settle
able
down.
to do just the audio? We can just take questions and.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, that is.
We can see you and we can hear
breaking. Okay. Take the presentation off. Yeah. Okay.
Unmute yourself.
Basically, Arun said we are ready to take questions now.
Okay.
I don't know about questions, but I'm Brian Jenkins and greetings to everybody.
Hi, greetings, Brian.
Apologies to everyone for the technical glitches. We had really worked this out really well. So I don't know what happened last minute. Would request all of you to, because we are 98 of us, would request all of you to put yourselves on mute and type in your questions in the chat window, which we will share with the team, and they will take turns in responding to us. So all those that you saw was the entire team, that most of them live, or maybe all of them live on the campus, which is a farm as a community. And it's lovely to have all of them. And it's also sad that we're not able to see them at this point. Are you able to hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So, the Marudam team, are you able to hear me?
It looks like they're muted.
Ah, okay.
So can you hear us now?
Yes, can hear you now.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, should we go ahead?
It is quite clear now. The voice is quite clear now.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Stay with this connection. Even if
Yes.
we can't see you. So we started receiving questions that you can weave into your sharing, responses to them.
Come closer.
The first one is from Ashish, who's asking, can you give us a sense of the diversity of people there who are there as students? What is the kind of diversity that you have?
Students and teachers, or whatever you call them.
The community.
Okay, I'm just repeating for the Marudam group the question. So the question is, what's the diversity of students that we have here? Okay. Yeah. And adults. I'll answer, then if anybody else wants, they will answer. Okay, Sangeeta? Yeah.
Sure, Purnima, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah.
So, so the kind of diversity we have children, 60% from our local villages. We are in a village called Kanathapundi. So many of our children come from around here. Then we also have children from the Tiruvannamalai town, coming from varied occupations from the town. We also have few children who have been coming from various countries, but who have parents have been here for a long time in Tiruvannamalai, different nationalities. So this is the Marudam group together. Similarly, we have teachers. We have teachers from the south, from the village, which is local here, from the town, as well as teachers who have been from different countries. So it's the similar diversity we have among teachers also. Some of the teachers have also come from North India.
Lovely.
Hello, Sangeeta?
Yes,
Was it clear?
Yeah, it was quite clear.
Okay. The next question can be answered by another person, okay,
Sure,
from
sure.
our Marudam team. Yeah.
And as you're answering, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit more, no? So we get to know you also, because there's so many of you.
Okay. So I answered. Okay. The questions are coming on the screen, so we are happy for that. So I'll introduce. You want me to introduce myself?
No,
Sangeeta, is that right?
From your team, if they can introduce
I'll ask them to introduce.
Yeah, just a couple of lines about what
Sure.
they do in Marudam, so we get a better sense.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So there's one.
So next question.
One person
Who wants to answer that?
Whether this model can be taken to a city context. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, okay. So, in a city context, I would say it could be at a very smaller level. That is, if you have school, like let's say 20 started. So if you have a smaller numbers that in a city also, with some space, I wouldn't say much, but at least a space where children play, not just a house or something, but a little bit of garden or something around, like how usually the government schools have, a little bit of space, then it will work in a city. Now, you can also have 4 children for the primary, one small group of people for middle school and high school. in different spaces also, but they can work together, no? Like depending on what the needs are. In a city, we would say it's very important, still like how Sangeeta was introducing ourselves about the connection with the local community. So even in a city, you do have diverse communities around you, isn't it? Which probably you will call as, slum hamlets, but I wouldn't call that. You know, you have different kinds of people living together, and it's nice if that can be integrated in the city. So it shouldn't be class oriented, no, your group of people, then it works very well probably. And a few walks maybe in wonderful spaces like beaches and gardens, and there are natural spaces also in a city, so it will be nice for the children to have some exposure to that. Okay. I keep having this doubt whether I can be heard, so if you can say, it helps me.
Yes, we could hear you clearly.
Okay. So I don't know if anybody else wants to take this question on. Like, yeah.
There's a question attached to it, which is how different is Marudam to the normal government or private school in its format of working?
Can you please repeat the question again?
How is Marudam different from normal government or private school?
Yeah, hi, I'm Paripurnam. So I think what is the difference between the government school? When we have already a lot of curriculum planned, right? And when we have schools, like I see government schools are more all these things are still there.
We can't hear you again. Your voice is cracking. You've changed your network.
Oh, now can you?
Yes. Just stick to the one that you were using earlier. Yes.
Yeah, now.
Yeah. Perfect.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, yeah, happy. Some can provide happiness to children. Comparatively, what I see, when children are happy here, they are pure. Even in a school like common school, they have to be threatened to do anything. What they have to. When we need something from that of difference between private school and Marudam. Yeah. So wait. So somebody else also wants to say something about the topic.
Yeah.
Let them use the same system as you have.
Hello. I am Harish.
Hi, Harish. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah. So one more thing that is very different here in Marudam is the emphasis that is given on learning by doing. So in a government setup, when the number of children are large, the education is very restricted to the classroom alone. But here, as Purnima also mentioned earlier, so there is a connection with the local community with many of the things that the children are doing. So children get their hands in the soil, they do gardening, and then there is also an exploration of crafts. And then many of the, even on an academic front, there is an emphasis on project-based learning. So for example, one of the projects that we did here was to understand the economy of Tiruvannamalai, in the sense that we just took children around the Ramanashram area and interviewed a host of shopkeepers and understood their profit and loss and how they run their own shops, where are they coming from and all. So there is an emphasis on doing things and and hence kind of more scope to internalize what children are learning. So the learning is real for children rather than from a very textbookish kind of an orientation.
Thanks, Harish. There are a couple of questions. One is...
so,
yeah, would you like
hello?
to add?
So, Sangeeta, Karthik will answer Ashish's question. Yeah? Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm
About
Karthik.
Right to Education Act?
Yeah. That
So
is the one
for
I'd
others
like
who are
to
not
say.
reading the chat window, the question is,
The question is, do you face problems with straight-jacketed approach of RT?
We lost you, Karthik.
Actually, can you hear?
No, it's breaking.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me, Sangeeta?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So officially, there are in the record there are about I think 9 to 10 teachers, but there are a lot of us who are off the list of the government, who are also a big part of the teaching team. And these are people who have been committed to whatever, for instance, a lot of us are engaged with conservation, who have not been formally, having formal degrees in education. But they've got a lot of experience working with children. For instance, Akila Akka, who's been working with the SSTC and Student Cereal Conservation Network. She's been teaching for a long while in the Middle East. And Pari and Pachayapan, who've been also working with children for a long time. Only recently we've done some diploma training. But I think experience is helping us in this matter. So off the record, the teachers who are there are always contributing in the time that's available for them. For instance, their parents who are coming and also helping in the teaching, doing one-on-one sessions with slow learners and other children. I would also like to pass it on to somebody else who's, I'll give it to Purnima. Can you hear?
Can hear you. Thanks, Harish.
Hello?
Yeah, can hear you.
It will be helpful if you say yes in between, okay?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So what is that like, I would like to take this question, how can we integrate it in school routines in cities, no? I was just linking back to the previous question, which Ashish also asked, is that what is important, often we find that some of us have actually gone through the formal, just for the RT requirements, we have done our BEds and we have done our DTEDs because it was a requirement for the government. People who are long-term teachers here. So that has been helpful, I would say, because our core team has those qualifications. So it's also nice because when the core team is intact, like let's say like 12 or 13 of us are core in school. We've been there for 8-9 years. So the rest of the people who are resources, who are coming for 1 or 2 years and going, can come with not necessarily the qualification, you know? And we're adding on to that, the quality of engaging with children and enjoying that, you know, you don't have to have a degree or like qualification of a teaching thing. So even in the city, I feel the same, no? At least a core group of people should do some requirement for RT.
Okay. So what I understand is that you're creatively combined certain requirements and also integrating people who don't have to go through the system. And
yes.
so that you're not bothered or you're allowed to function, you know, in that way.
Yeah. It's not as easy, but it is, yeah, it's worth it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There are a couple of questions, I think, which can be clubbed. One is, what is a typical day for a child at the school? And if you can talk about the next one also, you know, the total immersion in nature and farming. How have you seen this influencing children's personalities in any way?
Yeah. Sangeeta, before taking that question,
how you approach project-based learning.
yes.
That can be one part of your sharing, and another one could be the nature immersion.
Sure. Before that, Sangeeta, Madhurya wants to answer something, and then we'll take that next question. Yeah?
Sure, sure.
As the mic shifts, I'll also check. Can my voice be heard?
Yes, yes. Please go
yes. I just want to tell all those who have signed into the webinar how this is true to the mantra of planning to death, but then, you know, anything can happen, which is that we set the whole thing up, but everything that could possibly make it complicated, that happened. And so sometimes I just want to share how in alternative schooling also, you might plan to death that, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the class. This is the curriculum. This is what I'm going to take. But there's also a complete openness to the question that a child might ask that day, or, you know, just a complete curiosity that they will express, and allowing that the flow of the class to open out that way. I think a lot of us who went to more mainstream school had the response from a teacher, it's not in your curriculum, it's not in your syllabus, you'll do it when you come to higher class. And so this is one thing that's really beautiful, that you don't, there's no restriction to what how to engage that question. And so that's one thing that I want to share.
To go with the children's questions for that day or interest.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, we do have a plan, but then allowing that never to pinch any curiosity that is expressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I would like
just
to add
this question. Yeah.
Are you done? After you're done.
There's a question of, yeah.
No, I would like to add a question to what
Yeah,
you just said, just to kind of keep the continuity. What does that, would be interesting for you to share, what does that do to you as adults, you know, when we go with a certain plan of what we want to share, and you
yes.
know, how does that shift something in you as an adult is one, you know, what kind of unlearning that happens of if it does, and maybe from there you can flow into what's a typical day like, how much of it is planned, like there's a question about what's the proportion of time spent by children on learning by doing versus more classroom education. So maybe you can share a little bit around these, you know, how much of the day is planned, what is it like a typical day, how much of it is kept open to what spontaneously arises in the day.
I'm just going to pause here because until now, only I was able to hear your question. And just until now, the question that Purnima Akka was asked, we all didn't hear. So that continues. So I'm just going to pause and open it out if anyone else wants to take on this question.
Sangeeta, quickly, hello. For Brian, I would say we are not open. Marudam is not open officially. And we've had regular meetings among teachers and adults here to deal with different fears created by Corona. So that is one thing. I just want to, okay. So then the immersion of nature, I thought like when Sangeeta was asking, before that, I thought like some people will share about the unlearning and about what happens, and then the immersion of nature can come.
Sangeeta, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you, Akila.
Yeah, I just like to add something to the nature part of it. Basically, one of the things that in a city, as earlier Harish was saying, space constraints and all that, in that way we're very fortunate to be close to the hill and to be in a farm away from the town, to have a lot of green around us. And so I think one of the core cultural things in Marudam is respect and lack of fear for nature, because if city children come and visit, they are terrified of insects or of any little reptile and things like that. I think here the children learn to not be afraid, but to live, to learn, and to respect and to care for the creatures around us, whether it's the birds, the reptiles, the frogs, the trees, or the flowers. There's so much interest, so much involvement, but there's also care. For example, there was a pair of eagle owls nesting on the hill, and there is a weekly walk on the hill on a particular path, any path, and the path near which the nest was avoided by the children because they felt that if they kept using it, it would disturb the nesting pair. So similarly, sometimes we have kalaka, nanaparam, and all fruit coming in the bushes when we walk on the hill, but there's a conscious effort that there's a thought for the birds and the monkeys that would like to also have those fruit, and therefore not to pluck everything, although they're very tasty and many of us really enjoy eating those fruit. Similarly, for several weeks, there was an otter in a park in the water bodies, and everybody was super excited and wanting to watch it. But all the time, great care was taken to ensure that it was not disturbed in any way. So I think, and even in our campus itself, we try and keep some papaya trees, the fruit is for the parakeets. Some of the kambu that we grow is for the munias. We try and keep some wild, places in the campus where, it stays without too much people going inside. So kind of hoping that, a family of hares will come and settle down there or something like that. So yeah, we're always, I think one constant thought is for children to be close to nature always, in whatever form it takes, to not be afraid, to care for, to respect. So that's one thing. Yeah, one minute. Yeah, somebody else will take on.
Yeah, would as the next person is speaking.
Hi, 1 minute. So I'm seeing many questions in the screen.
This can hear me. Yeah.
I see many questions on the screen now. So I thought many questions would be answered if we just share a routine.
Sure.
What is our routine like from the morning to evening?
Yeah.
Is that what you want to say? Can I say what the routine is? Shut up. 1 minute. Can you hear me?
Look like, and what does your week look like also? Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just finish it, then a person wants to take on. Okay. So the day starts for kindergarten and all the student at 8:30 in the morning. So 8:30. So each and every day in a week is totally different. So once in a week we all meet as a common assembly. So that will be on Monday. So other days we don't compulsorily meet on the first hour of the day. So Monday we'll have a common assembly with all the children and all the teachers, and the children will be having their physical education. Then we have 3 hours of academic class. So it will be varied from group to group. So until age of 11 years of age, we have a double teacher system. Double teacher system. The children does not have to move to different teachers. Also try to adopt different people. So that for that age, it is a bit difficult. So after they'll start teachers. different teachers will be teaching different things. So that's our, more or less, it will be maximum 4 hours day of academics. Then have like art, again, games, and yeah, all the other if you call it extracurricular activities, you can call it, but we don't see it as extracurricular activity, so part of our curriculum. So that's for one group of children. Kindergarten children will leave early, so they will leave at the other groups, like let's say from 12 years, they leave at 3:30. The rest of the children will stay at 5 o'clock.
We stopped hearing you, Paripurnam. Hello, can't hear you. Hello.
Oh, hello. Hello.
We couldn't hear you for the last 1 minute.
Oh, is it? Sorry, where I left? Just give me a clue, then I continue. Continue.
Yeah.
So the week would be like every Thursday or Friday, the children will be going to the park, which was they'll be up to in the park. And they also have part of their timetable, there will be a gardening class and also farming. According to their age, they will be participating in the gardening class. So that's how our day would and week will look like. So the next question, somebody else will take it.
Thank you. Can't hear you.
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello, Sangeeta, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can hear.
Hello. Did you hear Paripurnam fully?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now we'll have Pachapan. He'll be speaking in Tamil, and I will translate after he finishes. Yeah?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay.
Which question is he addressing? Which question is he addressing?
Which question are you talking about?
Nature education பத்தி நான்
Okay.
நேச்சர் வந்து சின்ன வயசுல நாங்க வில்லேஜ்ல கத்துக்கிட்டது. தாத்தா பாட்டியோட காட்டுக்கு மலைக்கெல்லாம் மாடு ஓட்டிக்கிட்டு ஆடு எல்லாம் மேய்ச்சிட்டு இருந்தது. அப்ப கத்துக்கிட்டதெல்லாம் இப்ப பசங்களுக்கு வந்து சொல்லி கொடுக்க போறோம்லாம் அப்ப தெரியாது. கேக்குதுங்களாக்கா?
கேக்குது, சொல்லுங்க.
அப்ப வந்து பாட்டியோட காட்டுக்கு போயிட்டு இருப்போம். அப்ப மலைகள் ஏறுறது, அந்த பறவைகள் பாக்குறது, அவங்க வேற பேரெல்லாம் சொன்னது, இயற்கை பத்தி நிறைய சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க. ஆனா அது மட்டும் நான் அப்ப நினைச்சு பார்க்கல, இதெல்லாம் நம்ம போய் ஃபியூச்சர்ல சொல்லி கொடுக்க போறோம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி. இப்போ அதெல்லாம் சொல்லி கொடுக்கும் போது ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருந்தது, பசங்களோட போயிட்டு சொல்லும் போது. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு இடமும் எனக்கு கிடைச்சது இங்க மருதம்ல. யூஸ்வலா வேற நார்மல் ஸ்கூலுக்கு நான் போயிருந்தேன்னா இப்படி ஒரு இடம் எனக்கு கிடைச்சிருக்காது. நான் எப்படி கத்துக்கிட்டேனோ அதே மாதிரி வில்லேஜ் பசங்க என்ன மாதிரியே வளர்றதுக்கு ஒரு வாய்ப்பு கிடைக்கிறதா எனக்கு இதுல இருந்து நான் நிறைய பார்த்தேன்.
ஓகே.
வேற மாதிரி பேக்ரவுண்ட்ல இருந்து வர்ற பசங்களும் நல்லா கத்துக்கிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அது ஒவ்வொரு பேக்ரவுண்ட்ல இருந்து வர பசங்களுக்கும் எல்லாருக்குமே ஒரே மாதிரி இந்த நேச்சர் பத்தி எப்படி கத்துக்கிறதுங்கிறது எனக்கு டீச் பண்றது ஈஸியா இருந்தது. எதுக்குன்னா நான் அந்த பேக்ரவுண்ட்லயே வளர்ந்து இருந்ததுனால.
ஓகே, நன்றி பச்சையப்பன்.
நன்றிக்கா.
You want to translate, Purnima?
Yeah. So our sorry. So what he was sharing was that because he is from the village and when they were young, how they went to the mountains, played in the pond, or like, herded the cows and everything. Similar education, he's very happy that children from the village are getting in Marudam, that it's not taken away from that, from the way he has been brought up. And similarly, he is able to contribute the same way to even children who come from other backgrounds, not necessarily village, but he is able to contribute that feeling to them in terms of nature and what he has learned from childhood. So he thinks that's very valuable for children when they are in this kind of integrated space. The other thing is, he felt that definitely that nature education seems very vital for all children. And that's what he was saying. Maybe later on he'll say more. So in short, I said, the question, one question which Sangeeta you had asked in between when Madhurya was sharing was how adults see this unlearning, or, which I thought was very vital. And some of us might want to share that. Before that, I want to share that there was one question. Are the children from diverse social backgrounds? What about the participation of girl students, as well as for different diverse education? So because Pachipan shared this, I thought it's nice I would like to share parts of it. See, even in nature education, it is a challenge. No, it's not like Marudam has this figured out answer of nature. No, we are human beings and we definitely have our limitations. So I would say that all the children come from diverse backgrounds. Even in village children, it will be like how they approach, like, honeybees without hurting, or like collecting something like fruits, or like Akilaka was sharing. The knowledge might be there, but how do you learn to like integrate into a space where you're not really hurting animals? For children from probably an urban background, or people who have not been exposed to like climbing on the rocks and everything, even the precautions of balancing, looking itself, there are children in Marudam, the other day we were talking in the meeting, who didn't know what is a coconut tree. So child has been here for like 1 year, still probably has not learned. No, so we thought, my God, how did it happen? So it's not like just because we are exposing them that every child is sensitized. Someone asked about sensitivity, and I think sensitivity will come from a process, and that process we are trying, we're trying to keep that process alive for children. And they asked, one other question was whether it's initiated by adults or children. I thought that's a very, very important thing for us to look. If adults are with children in the process, like Sangeeta was sharing, that we are also co-learners with the child, right? We're not separate. Many of us didn't know anything about many parts of nature, or it's not like we knew about insects or birds, or it's not like we knew how to work in the land. And some of us knew that a lot. So we're learning from each other. Similarly, children, many of the children are co-learners, right? Peer learning is very, very important. So children are also learning from each other as much as adults. So what is important is to facilitate, like let's say when you're going on a nature walk, that it's not directed. I think that we've been very careful, that we don't say, hey, anga parida, golden oriole, inga parida. That happens after a relationship is formed. Not, it should come like organically, not something directed and controlled. Bird watching activity. Today we'll have tree study. First, they have to have form. That's what Akilaka was sharing. No, first the child learns to relate, and it could be thorns. They might get really poked with thorns, and they might be crying in the nature. It's not like nature is always this beautiful. Like you can have like really. So that's what I just want to share before we go into the
Hello.
Yeah, if you could share a little bit about your own experience with unlearning, no? Like, when you joined Marudam to now, your inner journey, and also what adults there learn from children, and
that's quite a interesting question. So once again, I'll just repeat the question for the other people to hear. So she's asking me to share about my journey of unlearning, having come from the city and being here and all. So for me, so in the beginning, like the question, for example, what does this unlearning mean as a teacher? That is something very interesting. Like in the sense that sometimes you walk with a plan, and then the child comes with a question that's very alive.
Yeah.
As a teacher, also, it's very important for you to put your plans on hold. The place for teacher children hierarchy there is something very porous. Like, you know, you have to flow with the learning process, because sometimes you are completely intrigued, you don't have an answer for what the child has asked, and then a lot of times in the middle of the class you stop the class, you go to some other room, you just ask the same question, this is something really interesting, so what do the other teachers feel, and then come back and share and all that. So for me, the most important thing I would say in the process of unlearning is that the teacher should be a learner, I think, at the first and foremost, and be willing to flow with the process of learning rather than come with a way set plan. I'm not against plans. I mean, plans also do play a very important part in a structured case, but also the willingness to be flexible, adaptive, and flow with the question of what is generated in the class. Student kind of becomes very porous in a way, and then the hierarchy is not set, because you're not the one who's deciding whether the question is important or not important, and you know, all these. And speaking for myself, I would say the greatest learning for me personally, Marudam, has been the engagement with land, I would say, because coming from a completely urban background, completing engineering, then coming with the willingness to work, and the willingness was there, but completely, you know, job. I mean, so for me, it was a process of
we're losing you, Arish.
the soil, people who are around here. Oops. Did you lose me? Can you say? I'll
Yeah,
repeat.
can you speak again?
No, from which part did I say?
No, your voice is just breaking. Yeah, continue. Please continue.
Where should we start from?
No, we heard the whole thing, but it's just breaking.
Okay. So for me, I said, for me, the greatest learning has been after coming from a engineering background, having spent 22 years of my life in the city, coming here and learning to work with the body, with the hands and all that is I would say the greatest unlearning that still keeps on happening. So for me, the working with the land, you know, with farming, with gardening, and even engaging with touching the soil and using the tools and all. Yeah. So for me, it has been both verbal and also through observation. So where you don't start from any preset knowledge, but you see people working around, you ask them, you know, even in terms of farming, you tap into the knowledge that the farmers have. For example, here, Parasramana, who's taking charge of the farm here, who has been with us since the beginning of the project. Yeah. So for me, he has been one of the biggest resources in a way. So to, in the beginning, go and ask every step of what was going on in a crop cycle, you know, why do they have a nursery? At what stage do you pick up the rice plants? How often do you flood it? How do you deal with uncertainties? That come suddenly, there might not be current, the water cannot be let in. So many different things. So for me, I would say the core, again, coming back, the core unlearning for me is to be flexible, to be adaptive, and then, you know, put your priorities a little aside and flow with the process. I mean, that I would say is one thing that I have engaged on and on.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Harish. Beautiful.
Yeah.
With the questions coming in, Uma is also responding to them on chat. So do you have something that you want to talk about? Do you know something, what you want to talk about, Purnima? Or do you want to share a question with you?
If Arun is on the thing, I'll wait.
Yeah, Arun should
if
check
he wants to share something.
Yes, Arun should talk now. Please can hear us.
Yeah.
Say what? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you, Arun.
Yes, yes.
So what question should I take? Give me a cue. I mean, I was out for some time, so I don't know. I lost the thread a bit.
So one of the questions, there are a couple of questions here that talk about the last two ones, about the way hegemonies of knowledge or even the language of knowledge, how does this come in the way of learning with our whole being in a connected manner? And so that is one. And
yeah.
So the other one, so would you like to just talk about this?
Yeah, one can say about this, at least to the extent that I understand. So, like Harish was mentioning, unlearning, right? I think so much of our knowledge, the way we understand it, is through language. Is the way we quantify knowledge. Is the way we even know. I mean, I've seen there's a need to verbalize it in some way to know that you know. But a lot of knowledge is perceived, is understood, is intuitively imbibed, is absorbed. And I don't know if we really pay attention to that, or in our education system, whether we actually focus on that and say, listen, a lot of learning is happening. And I don't know if we even acknowledge that for ourselves as adults. And I would say, as somebody who has gone through a conventional education, one didn't know, how to pay attention to these things, or one didn't give much importance to that learning. But we are now seeing that, as an educator for now in these schools, I'm seeing that so much learning is happening, which is in the everyday realm, which is not what is intended, but but there's so much happening anyways. Like, for example, in a classroom, more than anything else, the biggest learning is relational, isn't it? How you get along with your peers, how do you get along with adults in the space, all that, so lot of learning is happening all the time, but which we won't call learning, and so what we can verbalize, what we can reproduce in a certain way, we end up calling learning. But if we shift the focus and say, no, listen, learning is happening all the time, and acknowledge all the learning as learning, then it suddenly becomes very different. I'm suddenly remembering that a while ago, one of my ex-students from here had come with me on a walk on the hill. We had spent the whole morning on the hill, and he said it was great fun.
Huh? I know it was I'm studying.
Yeah, what's your name?
Logit Varshan.
Oh, somebody's interrupting me. Sorry, Sangeeta, I cross-talk, so I got distracted. Okay, the boy who had come with me on the walk, adult now, he said it is great having a walk experience on the hill and all that, good fun, but what did we learn now? To me, I was quite taken aback because, what he had failed to see is that so much learning is happening all the time, and even we, because if we can't articulate it, if we can't put it in certain words, we are not able to say. Anyway, so I just want to tell a little bit more. How we break this a bit is one, by acknowledging it. And the other one is looking at people of the village, our partners in work, as repositories of knowledge. For instance, Harish mentioned Parsuram, right? Or Maslamani Anna. So Maslamani Anna, in a conventional understanding of the world, is a manual laborer, which means his knowledge base is probably very small. But for us, he is a wise man because he has worked with the land all his life. In his mid-50s years. He has an understanding of the hill, every rock, every fold, every stream, and lot about trees and whatnot. That knowledge which he has imbibed over his lifetime of, in early years, tree cutting, and later years, tree planting, fire line cutting, firefighting. There is a body of knowledge there which we don't value. For him, he's a coolie man. His salary reflects that. The way he is referred to reflects that. But here is a repository of knowledge one can learn from. So fortunately, over time, we have created spaces where children can be with him, partake in the tree planting with him, because he's not necessarily going to share his knowledge verbally in words, but you be with him. You share with his life. You be in his everyday, the way you watch his energy, the way he conserves energy. It's amazing. There's so much to learn from this man, even diplomatic skills and other things. But but we conventionally don't value it. You know? So we're breaking this thing of saying who is knowledgeable and who is not. You know, is a farmer a knowledgeable person or not? You know, like so on and so forth. I mean, I think I've sort of answered the question too long.
Yeah.
Hey, one of our stars has come into the show. Like we see Patuma in the screen.
Welcome, LT, I was told.
No, this was Patuma who's just come in. Okay, some other question, somebody else.
Yeah, so I want to.
What you shared, Arun, is very important. What gets acknowledged is knowledge. You know, that's like the fundamental of at the core of this conversation also. And I would like to connect it to a couple of questions that I saw earlier. One was about evaluation, you know, which very often gets asked. So in a context like this, where you're looking at knowledge very differently and you're saying learning happens all the time, how do you look at evaluation? How do you approach it in a whole learning kind of context? And another question connected to that is, how are the parents of the children? I know there are the families who move to Tiruvannamalai specifically to send their children to Marudam. I'm not talking about those parents, but more from the rural areas around. You know, how is their perception of themselves and their knowledge systems and what they are worth and some of those things, how have they how has some of this shifted over time? Because that is also very crucial to, you know, some of the shifts that we would like to see in the world.
No, definitely.
Good to understand the process.
So I'll answer this separately. This evaluation business, so it's an interesting thing. I mean, any teacher would know all the time what is happening in her class or his class, right? I mean, how are the children, whether the children are understanding. Of course, if it's a large class of 50, 60 students or more, then I don't think you will have a sense. But now class sizes of maximum 10 or 12, you're looking at the children's faces and not only are they learning, are they enjoying the learning? Are they, you know, what is their feeling right now? What is happening inside them is something that you're continuously aware of, you know. So for me, evaluation is happening then and there. Evaluation of oneself also. How effective am I being as a teacher? Am I bringing energy into the class? Am I going across or not, you know? And if the children are sitting with dull eyes and, you know, are disinterested, then already you know that it's not, learning is not happening, you know. Evaluation, I'm saying evaluation is a continuous process. Every teacher would know this actually. So, but what we have done is that evaluation aside, we want also a very formal evaluation of memory, reproduction. You know, that kind of evaluation has a standardized method, whereas this kind of evaluation is not acknowledged. I am not trying to say that other evaluation is mindless, it's useless. It has its little bit of, it has its place, but a small place. But the learning itself, I think every child ought to be knowing, every teacher ought to be knowing all the time. And this is something we bring the attention to the child. Let not an hour, let not a moment go waste. Like, you know, if this class is not working for you, please let's not be in the class. You know, let's change the format of the class, or let's change what we are learning. That kind of thing we encourage the children to say and, you know, share, so that we can keep, you know, so that it makes sense for the children to be there, not as sedentary beings, but as active, participative beings.
So it's a continuous, alive feedback process from both sides. No?
All the time, all the time. I'm feeling bored in class. Can I go for a walk? Can I do something else?
A process is meaningful or not, and what needs to be shifted. Okay. There's another question I have, and I personally have, which kind of flows into this. The parents, you know, the village community, some of these, how has some of this transformation percolated and integrated the village community around? You know, what has been the impact among the families who send their kids here? And you know, how have you really integrated the local context? Would be interesting to know. And also the earlier question I asked about, you know, the local farmers, you know, feeling validated that they are knowledge holders and their knowledge systems are valuable. And some of those, it would be interesting to hear a couple of stories even about this, that's also connected to how you look at knowledge and,
Yeah. Sangeeta, I do, hello, hear me?
Yes, I can
Hello?
hear you. Yeah.
So basically, like there is Karthik, Pachapan, Harish, and Akila, and Paripunam who will also answer these quickly with some stories, like which you asked now. So I'll just quickly share that I do feel that the question which was asked is linked to yours. Is that how our children are integrating with the mainstream? Okay. So I think like the minute we really like what you call separate or segregate ourselves, that we are not mainstream. We are not mainstream in the way we think or what we want to collaboratively learn or do. But we are also part of a system. So in a village context, there are aspirations many parents have politically, which it's not that, they would like their children probably to like, study further. There are not all village parents are very happy, rightly so. We have so much problem with land, with the whole aspect of rain. So it's not like it's very easy for them to sustain the kind of agriculture or farming that they are doing. So some of the village parents have been very, very understanding. And in fact, like I would say the impact has been to empower what they don't feel good about. Kind of, I don't know if I'm clear, in the sense, many people might feel, now I'm just a farmer. They might come up with that kind of thing. But it's also that through doing and learning different kinds of things in farming with other people together, seems to have, I would say, raise some questions for many village parents. And when that question was asked about the mainstream, I would say that although we would not stop any child from going to probably a different kind of pursuit of higher education, or if they want to pursue a different kind of job, which probably is linked with some mainstream, what is the sensitivity they would, is something we should see. It would be interesting to see how they will be able to put themselves, I would say, that we keep on talking about how do that because the question, I thought 10th and 11th and 12th in our school is open schooling system. So we have children who can take open school in Tamil medium, English medium in state government. We also have children doing NIOS as well as from Cambridge, so that children can take whatever they are comfortable with the kind of subjects somebody had asked. So I thought specifically, that's all.
Yeah, thanks for it.
I would like to say something about Sujata's
Geeta, you want me to
special needs. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Karthik.
Yeah. So, we do have children with special needs and with some disabilities. Though all of us are not actually professionally trained to work with them, we are integrating these children with the regular classes. So they have routines of their own, which involves mixing with the group sometimes, and also have individual times. Sometimes they also have a parent or somebody who can assist them to be in the space. So that is one thing. And there's another question that I would like to say about Brian's concern about Corona. So, so interestingly, we've been also really thinking how we can work around this. So, so I mean, it is in process also. It changes just as government stance changes. So until last week, we were trying to offer the school space and also another space that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So another center that we have just recently started, a reading center. So we opened it out to children whose parents are allowing them to come and be. So there are small informal sessions of painting and things that are happening in the school. But in the case that the parents are not feeling willing enough to send their children, they're not coming. So these things have been happening. But we don't have a straight-jacket answer for the corona situation as of now. I would pass it on to Akila.
Thanks, Karthik.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Karthik. I
Hello.
can hear you.
Yeah, hi. I was just, there was one question about integrating with a life after school and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not very clear. I couldn't see it so clearly. I just wanted to add my thought to what Harish already said. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
So I think one thing that's a USP in the school is to understand that children naturally are curious, are naturally keen to learn, and instead of having a system where it's rigid and inflexible, to give the child the flexibility and the freedom to choose what she wants to learn. So often we have children who take on subjects they're interested in which they don't even do any exam at the end of the course. So some choose to, study, say, some things in geography, or, so they want to do about mountains or volcanoes or islands and things, or they want to do sociology. Many want current affairs as a very, as a part of, their weekly things that they take up. Children are given, or I don't know, I shouldn't say children are given. I think there is a lot of democracy in this space where each child is able to decide what she wants to take on. So there could be, sometimes even in sometimes they join a subject and then decide against it and want to choose something else. So even if one child takes up a particular subject, like one child has chosen the commerce group for his +2 next year, but nobody is going to say, no, you're just you on your own and we can't allot teachers for you. It's not like that. So any child taking up any course is supported as much as possible. So because it's a small school and because there are enough teachers and volunteers, I guess that's possible. So that kind of, I think the child being in charge of his or her learning. Can you hear?
Yeah.
And the ability to make decisions about what she wants to do or not do, to be able to think for herself. All these things, I think, make a big difference in their lives, that, that there is respect for what they want. There is respect for what they have a natural tendency towards, a passion in, whether it's craft or art or academics. It's I think a child-centered culture in that way.
Yeah.
I'll let somebody else answer.
Thanks, Akila.
Can we go on with some of the other questions, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Ashish, if you feel.
Akila, is that okay? Should we go on?
It's Paripurna.
I'm not on the mic. You asked.
All right, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's 3 or 4 more.
Okay. Can I just?
One of them.
I just the question came to me, which I read here, which was like girls' education, like what kind of girls' education was integrated in the school. No question one. There was a question, so I just feel like answer it.
Would you like to share now about it?
I can if you want. Otherwise, we can go ahead with the
sure,
questions.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Paripurna.
Okay. So yeah, so integrate. So we have, I think everyone knows that we have different background children, like from village and town, and also some of them from Western backgrounds. So having different girls in the school, also it's a different mix. All together in this context, 3 together makes 4. It doesn't like 1 + 1 + 1 = 4. It's just different combination itself. So there is learning happening between themselves. So especially do with culturally and also mentally, emotionally, and background wise, you know, there is curiosity from each side. So everyone is curious about the other background and culture and everything. So there is learning happens between them. So that's one way of learning is happening. So other way, what I see about the village girls educate, like they are getting educated here, you know. So what I don't know whether it's the whole Marudam things, but what I think is like when the girl child from a village is at least learns to question whatever happening to her, you know, that's something I would personally want to achieve, you know, like if let's say somebody say, you know, there is so much that village girls have to handle after a certain age. Especially, so Karthik is giving me early marriage, and you know, there's so many things that village girls especially have to, you know. So there I see this mixed background helps them, you know, they see a possibility that is from Western background is totally out of question, you know. What is this? What are you talking about? It's that. When the child receives that from the same age of hers, it's a different question than me going and saying, hey, this is wrong. You know, this is not okay as a teacher saying. So I see a difference in Marudam that way. So I'm very happy for that, whatever is happening till now here.
Sure. Beautiful. Thanks, Paripurnam. I'd like to add a small something to this about girls in Marudam.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Geeta, go on.
Oh, okay, you can
Hello.
hear me.
Go on,
Yeah, I can
Sangeeta.
hear you.
Arun?
No, you were saying, Sangeeta, please go ahead.
No, I was just wanted to add that one of the things that really moved me with respect to this question about girl children is to see when I walk into Marudam and see a young boy learning sewing, which is very typically seen as a girl's thing, or making a kolam, which is very beautiful to see how you break these stereotypes. And that itself can be very empowering for a girl child, that boys are also stepping in and doing this. So just wanted to add that bit. So it's really beautiful.
So can I add some of the more recent questions that have come in?
Yes.
Yeah, well, first of all, hi everybody. Wonderful to see you. Hopefully face to face soon. So I think on the Corona thing, I think there was an additional interesting point, which was not just about how the school is dealing with that as a health issue, but also what kind of lessons are emerging from it for everybody there in terms of, how society should be organized or relationship between humans and nature. So are you actually using the current pandemic as part of the learning in the school? That's one thing. The other is what actually motivated all of you who started this crazy journey to start? I mean, why did you move away from something conventional, let's say, and move into something that is so dramatically different from what the so-called mainstream is? Should I just give you the 3 or 4 and then you can decide?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Sujata had this question about disabilities. So children with disabilities or differently abled children, do you have, because the sorts of perspectives and or the learning environment is very different when you have children with specific disabilities with you. And Arun, I think, had this question about, do you also get elders to tell stories, to talk about their own knowledge, traditional knowledge? So the Nana Nanis and the Dada Dadis of the area, are they part of your mentorship or teaching or whatever? Yeah, I think there's 1 or 2 more, but why don't we deal with these 3, 4 and then we'll finish with the others later.
So group, can I do the first 2 questions and you do the rest? Purnima, Harish and all. Okay. So I'm in a different space. That's why I'm asking this question. Ashish, the first question, for us, this Corona has been a very interesting time. First of all, being so in such a remote place and so far from even a town and leave alone a city, it seemed so far removed and everything was unreal for us. Only in the recent weeks has Corona come anywhere near. So for us to have a bird's eye view of the whole thing,
and also given our way of thinking and way of looking at things. So just to analyze what's going on in the world, so we have kept meeting right through the whole time. Because particularly we live in a community, as a, and so many of us are here. So it has given us an opportunity to engage with each other, and also with students. We have so many of the students come from the immediate neighborhood, which is completely was out of the zone, and the village children, their lives were quite rich with the things that they have to do in their lives. Only the town children were a bit affected. So we even went in for the Zoom model and this, that, and all that, a class on the phone. But various things that we have done through this we have tried to understand how systems function and how, as individuals, while in some ways we have to comply with systems, but also we shouldn't lose our agency in the process. As a small institution, as individual, that how without endangering possibly the lives or stuff, but still that you should not get stopped completely. That there are things that one should be able to do, and I think this is something we have been able to explore among ourselves. And so, I mean, without going too much into it, I would say it has been an interesting journey for us. We have not felt stopped. Our lives have gone on, and we have felt quite enriched with children coming and doing gardening whenever they have time, or learning craft, or learning other languages, or interacting with the community. I mean, it's rich, and so much happening that it seems to be thriving rather than, I mean, and so when you hear about stories from the city where people are under stress, you feel really sad. And we also feel happy for the privilege of being here. So that leads me to the second question.
Well, including Arun, the fact that I can see 6 of you sitting there with no masks on, which is fantastic. It's great to see.
Don't get us caught.
You're on camera.
Yes. The second, and this leads me to the answer of the second question, which is like, why didn't we do this earlier? Why did we take so much time coming here? Like, I mean, what made us leave all that and come? I mean, Ashit, I've been in engagement with you over this. So I quit engineering long back, and all those guys sitting there, most of them are engineers. Akila is a MA, MPhil, Purnima is a postgraduate, I mean, we somehow seem to draw the super qualified, The super qualified seem to find discontent in their life, as car makers or IT guys or whatever. And they are drawn like bees to honey, or to nectar. They all come here. And so this community has grown over time. When we started, we were just few, right? But in fact, this could be a space for discontented young people who want to find a different meaning in life, So lots of people seem to come, and it's been a very enriching journey. In fact, the most recent addition is nearby. The government is building a rehabilitation center for the Narikoravas, the gypsies, and 100 of them are going to move in. So it's a very interesting possibility to engage with that community, 100 families of which are going to be near us. So we're hoping we'll be able to draw more young people who would like to engage with such communities, from, learn from them, to share with them, to do various things with them. And so, constantly there is scope for, life seems so rich and full of possibility when you see the opportunities that come about in a place like this, and so, yeah, we are all enjoying the privilege, and the only question is, why didn't we do this earlier? So I'll leave it for the third question.
Thanks, Arun.
So, see, one thing, my God. Okay. So I do want to, many questions with Ashish. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
See,
yes.
See, one thing is that, like me and Pachepan were also sharing, so a little bit of what he said, but maybe later he can say it in Tamil. But what I was saying is that the question I would say is, why during Corona, okay, there are different responses of people. Okay, I do think that the diversity of response is very valid in terms of keeping in touch with people. So what has been very important in relationship building is that there are people who are like, some are very certain anxieties can go up. Government has not provided enough, rehabilitation for some people. There are concerns about how many beds are available. Corona, some one or two parents. Then in rural community, it has been increasing now, the situation. So I would say what is very important is there collaboration and strengthening of the relationship right now? although that we are closed, so interesting that like when Arun was saying, it's not really that we are closed in relationship. We are only closed as an institution because we are mandatory to close, but we are really connected. So what was very interesting for us is we found many small immediate solutions possible only because we were all connected. And with this, I would say that when, Vijay Ramachandran, one asked about like, that outsiders, I would say in today's situation, I think inadequacy is a very, very calculated form of hegemony, I feel. That, somewhere, if you feel inadequate, oh, I can't handle this, without support, which is true, but it's not like it can't be handled. So many people are handling, not just Corona, I'm saying, generally itself. And I would say I would say that has been very valuable. For me personally, I would say when you were saying, how did I leave, if I ask for myself, how did I leave a system and come into the system? I think like I'd left it long time back when I was 16 and very inspired by Gandhi. But I would say over the years of like say 25 years of education, I have worked with children most of the time. But in Marudam, it's very special because here we're also integrating into the environment and nature around us. Now, children as well as adults during Corona have also learned to really integrate with the plants and animals more and more. In the sense, it's been very interesting that we had Zoom calls with town children, how they have been taking care of it, the need to be with nature, like, growing small things in the pots. And that has been very nice stories that children have shared. For children who have not been able to come here, I think that has been very valuable. Lastly, I want to say is that I do think that I don't know if this inadequacy part, I do feel like, for example, when Pari was talking about village children to girls, village parents have had fear of sending the village children, girls here, because they're so close to boys. We have other boys when they sit, they play a lot, cycling together, like so many other kind of things also get challenged. The similar thing in Corona, I find there are ways to handle. Some of us believe that masks might work. Some of us believe masks don't work. So there are different cultural aspects to that. And so not everybody has the quarantine space at home. So we have to be helpful to each other is what I wanted to share.
I would like to say a little bit about Vijay's question about we are probably perceived as outsiders and how we are addressing these things. So the afforestation project has been at least there for around 16 years, and the school has been here for 11 years. And one of the feeling that is very strongly rooted for all of us is that either with the children or with the people, with the whole team of the non-teaching and the teaching staff, is that we are all in it together. And the main feeling I can say for myself is when I work with children is to build I think a slow sense of pride in what we all are. And to not, I mean, this, I think a lot of our education also keeps asserting the fact that our issues are coming from somewhere and then our solutions are somewhere else and these whole things. So I think with small things like, project of making our own tooth powder and other things, there is some sort of building of the faith that we kind of, have solutions in our hand. So often we are accused of being, probably people who don't understand the dynamics of the village and all that, but we are constantly engaging with that, interacting with the parents or probably the village authorities and other things. And about field foundations, question about optimal size of the school, I think all of us will agree that we're already doing a tightrope walk. There are more than 100 children and a lot of requests constantly coming from people who are here and also people who would like to resettle in Tiruvannamalai just for the sake of the school. We started when I was here, 50 kids. Now I think we are about 125. So it is a tightrope walk. Yeah.
I want to answer the question. May I? Sorry, somebody is saying something.
No, I was just saying, so the principle of small is beautiful, which should apply to NGOs also, but often doesn't. No, but there were the other two questions also. So I don't know if one of the others want to ask about disability and about elders telling stories and so on.
Yeah, about disabilities, would be good if you can go a little bit into the details, like how many kids do you have who would typically not be integrated into a community like this, and what kinds of challenges they come with and how you work with them. I think that would be interesting to know.
Are you hearing that? Did you hear that?
Yes, yeah. So basically, I would take the question.
Can't hear you very well. Can you shift to another slightly different place, Purnima? Right? Move a little bit and see. Move a little bit and see. Wow.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Seems better.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can hear you, Purnima.
I have autism. And one of the children also had Down syndrome, but now he is passed out, and there is another child coming in, special needs. But then, I mean, these are words, you know, the hyperactivity with autism combinations and all that. So there are children with special needs. There are also children who have specific difficulties in sounds, in reading. We also have what is called some children who have difficulties in emotional integration. I just want to bring this word disability in a broad, who have very, like I would say, moderate to mild. So for the moderate child, it's more like there is a routine where the child is involved in doing things with the hand in the morning and joins everybody in the duties like washing, cleaning, gardening, and then body work, where a specific kind of training is given by one of the gymnastics teachers called Raj, who also gives a little bit like occupational therapy, but always with another child. Now, what is very interesting is that our special needs, right from kindergarten, we've had a child who has been with the children, and they go along with that group. So they have a relationship with the group. So we've never detained a child. I mean, detain means the word I'm using, like keep them in another group just because academically, that is very, very sad. I would say that the child moves with that relationship, and a child who's 12-year-old like Bharat, he is with the 7th grades now. In spite of his not being able to actively participate in academics, but he has a relationship. That has been very valuable. Now, we've had parents sharing, like one child who is now in 7th grade has made a lot of progress in terms of socializing. You know, the words start coming in. They're not able to speak earlier, but now they are able to speak. For adults, there are challenges. Not many adults are able to really embrace special needs. So there has been fears from adults initially, and when adolescence crushes happen, when they grow up, it's a little bit difficult period. Like they've not only fallen in love with, I mean, all of us do. So, like with their peers, but also with teachers, not in these realms. And so we are also learning in that. We're co-learners, how to rework on that program, providing more vocational thing, and where are the do's and don'ts for special needs. What is also very interesting that we said, no, this nature interface of going up the hill. We found many of the special needs children doing marvelously in climbing the hill. It's been a very empowering thing for them in terms of confidence, and they've always shared with their parents when they go home, oh, today I have climbed the hill. The extreme balance on the rocks. And so this is a special need program. Apart from that, I would say when I talked about emotional needs and for children with difficulties in reading, writing or sounds, we've had a lot of one-on-ones. where so parts of time they're together as in a group, parts of time they're also one-on-one where they get special attention. Same with special needs also. So there are times when they need those timeouts, otherwise they get overwhelmed by the number of people they have to interact socially. So how to find and have a balance between this, and I want to say, although education means to start at the level of the child. We all believe in that, right? It doesn't matter where, but I don't know if really we actually do. I think we all should start where the child is, however old they are. So in fact, like in classes of even 7th grade and 8th grade, we do have material from 1st grade. We've had, children happily going and interacting with 1st grade and 2nd grade and 3rd grade, even when they are in college, like in the sense, like Nandu and all, wanting to learn English. So this kind of thing helps the special needs children.
One question connected to the special needs children is you talked about how they progress. Would be good to see, also know how the other children interacting with these children, what kind of growth do they, do you want me to repeat the question, Purnima?
Can you repeat so I can tell?
Children with special needs. Would be good to also know how does it help the other children who are interacting with them in the class to grow, to learn to be, what's the kind of transformation or whatever that they go through, because this is
I'll have Pachappan answer.
ஹலோ
சொல்லுங்க பச்சைப்பன்.
மத்த பசங்க வந்து ரொம்ப கேர் எடுத்து பாத்துக்குவாங்கக்கா பசங்களை, அவங்க அந்த மாதிரி பசங்களை. சொல்லிட்டு தானே இருக்கு. அதான் எங்க வந்து பாத்துக்கிட்டீங்கன்னா இப்ப ஓல்டு குரூப் பசங்க எல்லாம் வேன்ல வரும்போதும் சரி, அவங்களோட பேக் எடுத்துக்கிறது, அவங்களோட வாட்டர் பாட்டில் வச்சிட்டு இருக்காங்களா இல்ல செருப்பு போட்டிருக்காங்களான்னு அந்த மாதிரி செக் பண்ணிட்டே இருப்பாங்க, எந்த மாதிரி ஃபீல் பண்றாங்க. வேன்ல வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் அவங்களோட பக்கத்துல உட்காந்துப்பாங்க. நிறைய பேர் அவங்களோட பேசிட்டே வருவாங்க. கிளாஸ்ல கொண்டு வந்து விட்டுட்டு போற வரைக்கும் பெரிய பசங்க, இப்ப கலைவாணின்னு ஒரு பொண்ணு இருக்கு, அவங்க எல்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா ரொம்ப கேர் எடுத்துப்பாங்க பசங்க மேல. அது நம்ம பார்க் வாக் போகும்போதும் சரி, நேச்சர் வாக் போகும்போதும் அவங்க எந்த மாதிரி இடத்துல நடக்கிறாங்க, முள்ளுல கால் வைக்கிறாங்களா, அந்த மாதிரி பாத்துக்கிறதும் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கும். பெரிய பசங்க பாத்துக்கிறது ரொம்ப கேர் எடுத்து பாத்துப்பாங்க. பயம் இருந்தாலும் அதுல இருந்து வெளில வந்துடுறாங்க அவங்க வந்துட்டு.
Okay. Would like to translate, Purnima?
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Harish.
So shall I translate or go ahead since the time is?
Translate.
Purnima said she can translate it later after I finish. Hello? Okay. So one thing that I wanted to kind of say was there was an earlier question that came up, which was in a class when so many diverse children are there, so how does one approach learning and meet the challenge of the classroom? It's very interesting. We couldn't say as a very perfect attempt, but it's been. Now?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, in terms of addressing the diversity within a classroom, I would say in Marudam, it's kind of a very special challenge here that all of our teachers and the group of teachers engage with all the time. So the learning is not like, what can I say, we are not here with one group of students. It's all quite a lot of, like as I say, the diversity is there. So one thing that I kind of felt as an approach to the curriculum is that you have a very diverse set of activities that the children can engage with. So for me, like one thing that comes up is Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence. You know, so for example, one anecdote that comes to me is one of our senior students who has passed out. She came to our school from a government school where they said she has passed the 6th grade. You know, but by the time she came here, she had so much of difficulties in kind of recognizing Tamil alphabets, English alphabets, making sentences, and you know, so much of disability on an academic front in that sense. You know, so but the same girl, for example, in her childhood, she like when she grew up, she was always herding goats, of spatial intelligence, I would say. So many a times on the walks when we go on top of the hill, so we don't kind of fix a path and go and all that. So a person who has kind of said, this is the right path, let's go and explore. And she has led a group of 15, 16 people down on an unknown route. And then finally we hit a path and reach our destination. So for me, that's fascinating. So for me, it is a thing that has to be celebrated. And so for me, always the focus has been, so a person is coming to the space, so can we find things that we can celebrate? And not find one the other is something that I have kind of found something very interesting for myself. And even in a space, say for example, we are learning about, let's say, a rainforest. I think different children, owing to their backgrounds and their varied abilities, connect to a particular activity in very different ways. So for example, somebody would like to write a paragraph about what they have learned about a particular animal. Somebody would like to draw, somebody would like to make clay. So to recognize all kinds of learning in a space, as Arun mentioned earlier. So for me, that's a very interesting journey. So can we kind of celebrate things that everybody has, like everybody gets affirmed by, rather than kind of picking on weak links and, you know, you can improve here, you can improve there. Why should anybody improve? So for instance, the same girl who I was talking about, when she was in her 11th and 12th, she gave her NIOS. But also on the other hand, she was the person who took charge of the entire baking of the school. Bake done for one full day for 130 children. So for me, that's a more bigger celebration than what she's doing on the academic front. So for me, and also even in terms of in today's world where we have so many unknown things, as the COVID has shown us, nobody knows where to go and what to do. And, you know, there is so much of uncertainty that is bound to come up in future. So I would say for me, the most pressing need of education would be, can children learn to celebrate themselves, and can they engage with a diverse set of skills rather than, you know, focusing on one particular thing. Let it be on a conventional school, a very exam oriented, or an intellectual kind of an engagement. But can we kind of focus on a variety of things is something that came up. So in the context of today's world, I feel that's a very big educational challenge.
Thanks, Harish. Purnima, you can translate Pachayappan's sharing. And I think we are past our time. It's 5:33. So maybe we can wrap up in the next few minutes. But yeah, if you can translate whatever Pachayappan shared about children with disabilities. Or children who work with other children.
So children with so translation is that many children actually help them both in the van, how they come. They always hand over the child to the teachers where they come into the classroom. Lot of care about talking to them even while they transit in the van and come down, or in the lunch hall while they're sharing food and everything. So specifically, some children are very, very caring. And he was mentioning Kalevani's name. But apart from that, he also feels that some of them who had fear have learned to engage and reduce their fears. The children, other children who had fears of children with special needs. I would say that they also learn to include and inclusively communicate. That's it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Aruna can do some rounding up.
Oh no, Sangeeta will do that.
I thought we could wait. There was one question about elders. How is Marudam an intergenerational space? How do you look at the intergenerationality, and especially elders in the community is something you could talk about. And maybe we could wrap it up with one last sharing around. There's just so much happening across the world right now, from whatever is happening in the US with the uprisings and different parts of the world. So many things are coming to the surface, and everyone talking about the need for a new normal and things like that. So are you bringing these events, issues into your discourse with each other in the community, I'm sure, and with children? So how are you looking at this opportunity for learning and to revisioning the society, not just around Marudam, but in a much larger sense? I thought we could end with a sharing from a couple of you around this. Like whatever is alive for you, whatever you're doing in Marudam around this.
There's also a nice anecdote that Nawaz has shared. Maybe we can just read that out before you people end. So he says, on my last visit to Tiruvannamalai, I happened to share the driver's seat with the share auto. The driver was keen and sure that when his son grows to school-going age, the boy was going to go to Marudam. That said so much about you guys and the good work that's going on there.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Please go on.
Sangeeta, I'll answer first to Sangeeta.
Sure.
Okay?
Go ahead.
So Sangeeta, among the elders, we are there. Purnima's elder person, I am elder person, Akila's elder person. So we are there. But other than that, so the forestry, the afforestation, the farm, it's about 75 to 100 people working of various ages. And the children, work in the nursery with them, in the farm with them, and so there's a lot of interaction. And of course, any elderly person, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or a village person who has folk songs or tales or whatever to share, we are always open to such possibilities and learn a lot of folk music and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely, I think there is a lot of respect for elders, and we are very much integrated with them. So yeah, that's one question. The other one, I very much resonate with what's happening in the world. For us, in today's world, there is no outer world and us and all that. We all are engulfed with everything that's happening. So we are completely aware of all this. So one space, one thing that probably didn't get mentioned in the sharing is that one of the key things in Marudam is the circle time. Right? So every class has its own circle time right across school, and then our own meetings are also a bit like circle time. So where we talk about everything that's going on, right? In our own lives, in the children's lives, in the outside world. So there is an opportunity to engage, and children very much, at least after a certain age, are very curious to know about what is going on. So we do very closely follow. And some of them who lost contact a little bit due to the corona said, no, we need to know what's going on. What is your thought on this? So sharing is happening even now very much on that front. So completely that is happening. The other related thing is like very early, I think for this time, we are quite grateful to all the opportunities that have come our way. But very early on, we became aware that this kind of lockdown situation is going to create a situation in the villages and around with so many daily wage earners not being able to, without an income, without a sort of savings and all that. So we began an outreach program, and the whole community quite happily jumped into it, and we have been reaching out to the surrounding villages and seeing how it's very small, our effort in this national scale of the thing that's happening, but at least where we can, we want to be able to do some things, and we are very happy that other schools and institutions, Vikalp Sangam itself is doing so much. So we're very happy that, but I think that's the key thing, that we should not get stopped with the world's forces, and that we should find a way of expressing ourselves and and being who we are with our belief systems and whatnot. So I think that way we feel quite empowered through this whole process. We are not felt in any way stopped or weakened or anything like that. So that way we are very privileged and happy to be like that.
While rounding up, sorry, there's one additional last question that's come in, which came to me Is the school self-sustainable? Are there any initiatives being taken on this front? So maybe when you're rounding up, if you can just deal with that.
Sure. Did you want to say something?
Before Arun answers that question, in a world where older people, like now in Corona, so many older people have died and so many things, I think care of children have learned. We've had, like, apart from, as Arun said, many people are older. There have been grandparents and great-grandparents really participative in some of the questions. And I think their questions have been very genuine, and we're very open while we have parents meeting that we actually have grandparents coming and visiting our school. It's been very, very nice to ask very pertinent questions, because many times children are being taken care of grandparents also, no? They're also actively participating in taking care of children. So to really include them into decision making, into individual parent meetings have been very helpful. And also when we had one teacher here who was 72, the children actually, adjusted, slowing down the pace to accommodate the 72. It was very nice, like only telling stories. And really, I just want to add that before Arun takes the last. Yeah.
This question on are we sustainable? I think we are completely unsustainable. And I think it's a model. Basically, we were lucky to have hit upon this thing that because originally the project started as an afforestation project on the hill, and it was we set it up as a charitable trust. And so that allowed us to even be able to do a school and be fee blind, to be able to take children from all backgrounds and be available to all. The fact that we are a charitable institution only permits us to do that. So fortunately for us, we are able to, enough Indians and foreigners and other people everywhere feel for children's education, and children are sponsored, and so that's how education happens. On another front, on the farm front, we are only about 9.5, 10 acres and about 4 or 5 acres of farmland. On a good year, we are able to produce about 60 to 80% of our requirement. We feed about 200 people a day on 200 working days of the school, or 250 working days of the school. All children, teachers, workers, everybody, like everyone. And so even for that, on a good year, about 60 to 80% we are able to produce. But the remaining we secure from the surrounding small farmers. We also run a small store which tries to support neighborhood small farmers. So, but the real answer is that we are not sustainable at all. And we are quite happy for that. Without the support of society, something like this can't run, I guess. And it's good to know that and good to acknowledge that.
So any final rounding up comments?
Sangeeta, Ashish, you must say.
No, not from us, from you all.
From us, huh? Well, we are very grateful for this opportunity. It almost did not happen with the technical hitches. Somehow something got pulled off, and thanks to everyone for being patient and putting up with our incompetence. I guess people like us are mostly Luddites and always fail in the altar of technology. So I'm grateful we managed to pull it off. So thank you all for being there and making this happen.
So for me, it's like when Sangeeta was here, we really hoped, when Sangeeta was here in Tiruvannamalai, we hope there will be many kuti things like Marudam happening in Tiruvannamalai. So I think that I would say it was wonderful to have many parents like Sangeeta and many others who have been very motivated to start something in smaller groups. So every day we hear a lot of homeschooling parents and all kind of people who want to start something. And I think that's very, very vital. When Arun was talking about these forces, I think each of us adults' relationship with children, forming even 20, 30 children together in a space seems very vital at this point of time. That's what I want to share.
Thank you all of you for persisting and pulling this off. We were just here. You guys did the hard work and making something work. So thank you. This is a very unique kind of webinar in such an informal and casual kind of setting with the entire community sitting together and laughing with each other and commenting with each other. So, it was quite lively. So
Multi-species also.
Huh?
Yes.
Multi-species also.
Multi-species. So thank you so much for your time and for all your sharing. And we'd like to see how to take this conversation forward if there are,